Welcome back to the Karsten Rundquist podcast.
And the Jeffrey Borslow.
It's your co-host Jeff here with the one, the only Karsten Rundquist. Karsten, what question do you have for us today?
Jeff, how many rides are at Disney World? As a Florida native, there's a lot of pressure here.
Especially because I used to go to Disney World because I'm from about 2.5 hours away, maybe even less, probably 2 actually.
Very jealous. Very jealous.
I went 3-4 times a year growing up because they used to have like a really good deal.
Yeah,
where if you paid for one day, you got like a year pass as a Florida resident.
Right.
Which they don't do that anymore because that's ridiculous.
Insane.
Like they don't want to give you good deals. They're Disney.
Exactly.
They want you to pay $50,000 to pretend you're in a Star Wars episode. You know that hotel I'm talking about?
Yeah. It's a crazy hotel.
Apparently, it was a tremendous failure because no one wanted to be there.
Yeah. Besides diehard Star Wars fans, I would assume. But,
and I think a lot of them already spent all of their money on like the figurines
the
from
toys.
the 70s.
Yeah.
So they don't have money to spend thousands on
Yeah.
one night of a hotel stay to pretend that you're hanging with Han Solo in a cantina.
And no disrespect to that type of person as
I'm just saying, like, as a business venture,
you don't have
rough.
Totally.
I love how you're like, no respect, but you don't have the money. No. Let's just put it out there.
No disrespect, but if you got rid of those toys, you might be able to afford.
Yeah, if you sold
nice
those
hotel.
those toys are worth a lot. Those toys are worth more than my car.
Which is the whole point of of collecting those toys. Is they're like it's going to be worth a lot, and
right? And they are.
Well,
my car is
when
worth
will you
$4,000?
Yeah.
So those toys are worth way more than my car.
Exactly.
My car's really old, Karsten. My car is from 2007.
Damn, Jesus, that is old. So you could either have a 2007 car or a Darth Vader figurine
with Stormtrooper.
Yes, with the red lightsaber, not the green one.
Anyways, the back to the question at hand.
How many rides?
Oh, okay. I don't even want to do the math because like I could virtually walk through the park in my head.
Yeah.
But then there's some things that aren't really rides that are like experiences where it's like you walk up in that Swiss Family Robinson treehouse thing.
I guess you could go about this and going like how many parks are there and on average how many rides do you think are in each park?
You're right, because there's like Epcot. Yeah, I'm just going to throw out a number that's vaguely I think in the ballpark because otherwise we'd be here literally the entire hour of the podcast would be me walking through the park in my head virtually. So I'm going to go 73.
It is 46. Which I'm like, I do wonder. That is a complicated question because you're right. There are rides, quote unquote rides at Disney World, like in Epcot, where I'm like, was that a ride or was that just a fun little experience?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I feel like if you were to count up all of that, it would probably be up in the 70s. But this, at least on ScaryMommy.com, they say there are 46 rides,
which is the Karstcast approved trivia provider.
Yes.
No sponsorship.
Just ScaryMommy.
Just pure love.
.com. Jeff, you just got back from a pretty big trip from what I understand.
I did. I was in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Now, we recorded the last podcast right before I left, and then I got sick, so I didn't have time to upload it before I left, and I didn't really have the ability to do it after I did leave because I didn't bring a laptop.
Yeah.
Because I had to fly back on Spirit, so I only took a small bag.
Yep. The Spirit way.
Mm-hmm. So we actually released the last one after I got back, but we recorded it before I left.
Yes.
So I was helping set up a podcast studio.
There we go.
Yeah. and it was just exciting. Like a short-term paid job. It wasn't for me.
It was for other podcasts.
Right.
Yeah. But that's exciting. How was Austin?
Much more exciting. Oh, Austin. Austin's great. I had more barbecue, hung out with people, the Austin way.
Yeah. The Austin way.
Yeah. It's such a weird place because like a quarter of the cars there are Teslas.
Really?
Yeah. It's the most tech bro city ever besides like San Francisco because all the tech bros moved there in the last 5 years because it was cheaper and now it's really expensive because of that.
Yeah, it's so weird the great migration to Austin, Texas. It seems like everyone moved there.
Yeah. It was like already a liberal like city. It was like the most liberal city in Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what happened was Texas, like Florida, does not have an income tax.
Okay.
So I think that's probably why they all wanted to do it.
Damn.
And the weather's
good. Weather is good there. Yeah. Especially at this time of year.
But I was going to say much more exciting than that. Let's look at what's happening on your head over there.
It's not that much more exciting. For any video watchers, or I guess I should say for any audio listeners, if you can't see, I have on the new AirPod Pro Maxes, which I got as a Christmas gift this year. Because the thing about the AirPod Pro Maxes is they are extremely expensive for headphones.
Like outrageously expensive.
It's like $500 something for headphones, which is like not something I took advantage of Christmas, of Mr. Claus, where I was like, I'm never gonna buy these myself, but I could make it just ask for this for Christmas as a one thing, and that's what I got. Were these headphones, and I will say, and I did some research beforehand because I really did want these headphones because shout out to MKBHD, the tech reviewer on YouTube. He had a pretty good review for them, and some other channels had pretty good reviews. I've just heard great things about these headphones, and I've heard they're very comfortable. They're so comfortable. They look a little weird, like they have this band as you've seen online, and but it fits really nice on my head, and the noise canceling and the whatever the opposite of noise canceling is, where you can like hear but you can still use the headphone. Yeah, the transparency, that's the word. It's really, really nice. So, I mean, I'm happy. I like them a lot. I'm taking the only downside to these headphones, and I'm sure you already know about this. Where is it? Oh, yes. Is this case. This is the shittiest case in the world. This is all it is. You just put them in the case, and I'm not going to be able to hear you because I just took my headphones out. But you just put them in here, and everything is still pretty much exposed. Like the bottom part with the stainless steel is exposed.
Yeah.
This top part, it's a shitty design on Apple's part, I'm going to be honest. And, yeah. Anyway, that's my official review of the AirPod Pro Maxes.
Yeah, do you think AirPod Pro Max is related to HBO Max? Like, are they buddies?
Yeah, probably. I like to watch my HBO Max shows on my AirPod Pro Maxes. Which, speaking of, actually,
jumbled as hell.
Yeah, I just started. This isn't what we're talking about today, but we are talking about an HBO Max thing today. But I watched the first episode of The Last of Us show last night.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I actually, unlike Succession, I'm gonna get on that like this week.
Yeah, I'm. The thing is, have you played the game, Jeff?
No.
Okay.
My brother did.
I haven't played the game either, and I'm gonna be. I think I'm considering like borrowing my friends because the game is like $70, and I don't want to pay for.
Yeah, well, the thing also is if the show is based on the game, I feel like the game would, ruin some of the surprise of the show.
Well, we had the idea that I could like play as I watch, and pause after, like, because it's going, it's coming out week by week. Right. So I watch the episode and then I get to play that episode, and then when I get to a part that looks unfamiliar, I pause it, wait to watch the next episode, and then keep playing, and then I go about it that way.
Now, that plan is heavily reliant on the plot being almost identical.
Yes. Which I've heard the pilot is incredibly faithful to the game, so at least there's that. So I know when to stop there.
Is this going to be like the first property that's a video game turned into like a TV show or movie that's good?
That's what people keep saying, yeah. And I heard I'm not that clued into the video game adaptation world. Like I'm not watching every movie based on a game, but someone on Twitter went on some rant yesterday that was like, actually they've done it like 2 or 3 times before this where they made a good thing. And I'm like, well, fuck, I don't pay attention. So I can't speak to if it is. But I will say, having not played the game, that it's a great show so far. It's really well made. And the lighting, I'll say, is like it looks like the lighting of a video game, but not in a bad way. Like it looks really good. So that's.
And you're watching this on your Sony OLED.
yeah, my Sony OLED HDR.
So so you're getting the full TV experience. Like you're getting individual pixels.
Yep, I'm seeing every bit of flesh and blood that's coming in through the show. The zombies are terrifying.
Your mouth, as you were saying that, kind of scared me.
What did it do?
Flesh and blood. Flesh and blood coming in through my screen.
Yeah, I got too excited about that. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. I would quick disclaimer, address the elephant in the room. I got allergies today, and so I'm going to be sniffling a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I took a pill, Zyrtec. That's not doing much, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anything else? Speaking
that was the elephant in the room. We were all thinking it.
Yep. Speaking of,
we just didn't want to say it, and by we I mean me, because the listener cannot talk to us. Just to be clear, anyone listening who the whole time thought we could hear them when they yelled at us,
no,
we can't.
We can't. Unless you're a guest on the podcast.
We instantly lose like 50% of our listeners because they thought they could yell at us.
They're like, wait, you guys couldn't hear me this whole time? People yelling at home at their laptops like it's a football game, but it's us. I don't know. How are the Vikings doing, Jeff? I need to.
The Vikings,
because they're out of the playoffs. Are they out?
Yeah, they're out of the playoffs. They lost.
Got to give my dad a call. See, back at Christmas, we were looking decent, and the Runquist household was in a really good mood because my dad's a big Vikings fan. My mom is. Like, everyone was in a great mood, and then we were kind of relying on the Packers, and then my Packer-loving cousin showed up, and he was like, how are you guys doing? And at this point, the Packers had won, and everyone was in a bad mood, and so there's a lot of tension going on in the family.
So I'll give you the quick sports rundown. So I'm not as big like an American football fan as I am ice hockey and European soccer.
Yes.
But I know a bit. The Vikings have the best wide receiver in the whole league.
Okay.
But here's the issue with the team. Their quarterback is pretty mediocre, Kirk Cousins, and
my dad doesn't like him.
He's not very good. But he has one of the best like NFL memes of all time.
Yeah.
Where after a game, he's like walks in the locker room, he's screaming, "You like that?" Because he just seems like such a big dweeb.
Yeah, with a name like Kirk, you gotta be
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, yeah. I just hear my dad yelling from the other room a lot, where he's like, "Come on, Cousins," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
talking about our cousins." I don't know,
but so they had a great record this year, Minnesota. But
we had a good, that's why I was invested.
Under the hood, there were some cracks. Like half of their wins were by one score or less. So they were barely winning a lot of these games.
Yeah.
Which made their record look like they were a better team than they were. And they were a good team, but they weren't a great team. And their record looked like a great team. So they pretty much played a team in the New York Football Giants. Is that who they played?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm asking you.
Yeah, I think that's who they just played. And they lost.
Great. Well, I'll give my dad a call. Talk him through it.
Yeah, but it was by one score. True to their winning or losing by one score nature.
Yep, that's the Vikings for you. Skoal.
Are you talking about the dip brand chewing tobacco?
No, that's our. Speaking of rivalries, I don't know how to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and me.
Yeah. Today we're talking about a documentary called "This Place Rules." There's much to talk about with this documentary. More
about
to talk
the doc itself, about the surrounding controversy.
Yes, we considered, because we said we were going to talk about this before this last week happened, where some things came out about the documentary's host. And we discussed, should we talk about, should we still talk about, should we not? And I think we came to I feel like just the things that have happened since the documentary kind of are interesting to talk about within the context of what the documentary is about, in my opinion. Like, I think it's a very interesting thing to have happen to someone who is talking about the things happening in the documentary, and I thought we could talk about it a little bit. It's also, as a doc itself, like a pretty interesting and noteworthy doc that we both were like, before things came out, excited about, and yeah, there's just a lot to talk about. So I will read the synopsis. This is directed by Andrew Callaghan. How do you?
It might be Callahan.
I think it's Callahan. That's what it is, yeah. And the synopsis reads, "This Place Rules" is a 2022 American documentary film directed by Andrew Callahan. I just did it again. In his feature directorial debut, it follows Callahan as he travels across the United States in the months preceding the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. An event that we haven't even really talked about that because we're not a political podcast, but that was a big thing. And this feels like, I would say, of all the things to talk about this event, and just the election and Trump and stuff, this is one of the better, or I should say more realistic depictions of what the country was going through and still is going through.
Right.
So yeah, it's a 2022 documentary. Technically, it came out December 30th. But it's been kind of the first big talked about thing of this year. And as if people don't know, Andrew Callahan also he's the host of Channel 5 News, which is it's kind of very similar to this doc. It's basically just a YouTube series, Patreon series, I don't know what to call it, of kind of him documenting very strange characters around the country. And He's done some really good, interesting stuff. I don't know if you've seen the Chicago episode he did, but I
don't think so.
It's a very interesting doc, if you want to call it that. But anyway,
do you want to? What do you want to get into first?
Okay, we should address the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room. You have allergies.
I got allergies. I'm sniffling, and it's just allergies.
Yeah.
But the filmmaker Andrew Callahan has a few sexual misconduct allegations against him. Do you know more about this than I do, Jeff?
I don't think I know more. I just know generally, it came out the first person had the TikTok.
Yeah.
And then a couple more people I think came forward.
According to this Rolling Stone article, an exclusive Rolling Stone report earlier this week, a woman known by the pseudonym Charlotte said she matched with Callahan on Tinder in 2016 before his recent fame and claimed he did not acquiesce, when she said no to sexual acts. He wasn't taking a simple no for an answer, and consequently it turned into me trying to make up an array of excuses as to why I didn't want to have sex. And that's one person. I think there were a few other people that came forward about it. But yeah, it's, and I think I first of all, I believe the victims, not only before his apology video in which he kind of admitted to it. I briefly watched, I did not finish the apology video, not for any other reason, but other than I had something to go do. But like, I obviously believe the victims here, and also think that my thoughts on this happening is that it what I've kind of been talking to friends about is that it's like the perfect storm of, like, he has built a fan base of a lot of people that don't trust the media and don't trust, mostly with good intentions of, like, it's not in like a weird, like, Orwellian way, but in more of like a just Fox and MSNBC have a lot of bias, and it's hard to trust either side here. And what I'm saying is, like, that kind of building an audience of people like that when something like this comes out leads to just a lot of people that are like, well, I don't trust this happening. Like, doesn't this seem kind of fishy right as his documentary comes out? Like, maybe it's just a lot of conspiratorial shit. And it's just a mess. It's a really unfortunate mess. And felt like we had to address that.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, it's allegations that I think it's great that these types of things are free to come out now, where 10 years ago, something that's a little more in a legal gray area, I think wouldn't even ever come out, because these aren't direct accusations of like, not no, like someone saying no. It's someone like clearly not wanting to, but not saying, so in like an affirmative way, and him just being like wearing someone down, and then you get into these things of power dynamics at play. It's all very, like, complicated stuff to work through, but I think it's a very positive thing where someone saying no isn't the only way that you can say no.
Yeah, it just seems
if that makes sense.
No, yeah. I don't know. It just seems like, I guess he's built up a very, I don't know how to say this. Never mind. I don't know where I was going to go with that. But it just sucks. Yeah. It's just kind of an unfortunate situation altogether. And he did put out an apology, on like his personal YouTube channel. I think he said he's going to, like, step away and, like,
go to therapy.
The typical apology
usual
video. Yeah.
Which, I mean, to be fair to him, I mean, that if he is doing that, that's a good step.
If he's, heading in a positive direction. But
it's hard to talk about it, but there is a difference between what he did and, like, other things. But
sure.
they're all bad, but they're different degrees of bad, and it's hard to wrap your head around, like, exactly.
Yeah.
Obviously he's in the wrong, but he's not legal, like, criminally in the wrong based on the way the current laws are set up. So, I mean, really, I guess the best you can hope for is for him to become a better person.
Right. Which, on the other side, this is just completely unrelated. The Justin Roiland, I think is his name.
The Rick and Morty guy.
Same week. But that seems a lot more.
That
like,
seems
that's
a lot.
Court.
Yeah, he was, like, for sure, allegedly grooming minors.
There's a lot going on. But we're here to talk about the documentary.
Yeah, we're here to talk about the documentary. Maybe a little politics.
Yeah, well, Jeff,
we're not a politics podcast.
We're not, but we were one of the top political streams the night before the election in 2020.
We were.
So if we want to get into it, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
And Jeff, you're actually the one that originally suggested this doc, which is why I was curious to hear what you thought of the doc, what your take on some of this is.
I think seeing this kind of footage further adds to my own belief about the broader political climate. And obviously it's a minority of people that are so, essentially brainwashed that they would go along with all these, conspiracy theories and try to storm the Capitol. But the thing that I think gets lost in this is that the people doing this think that they're good people and that they are the heroes in this story.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're wrong, obviously, but they genuinely believe that they are the good guy in this story. So
yeah,
I personally think that, you know, people are like, our doctor, was really close to falling apart. I don't think I believe that, because the people who were the ones storming the Capitol thought they were good guys, and they weren't in their own minds doing anything malicious. So I don't think they were ever really going to start killing people in the Capitol. I mean, maybe besides some politicians, but I think this documentary is a really interesting insight into like the warped way these people were perceiving the world around them.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how near the end of the doc, it kind of, you lose track in the heat of it all, like what the general purpose of all of this was. And in the end of the doc, it kind of boils down to like, there was no point here. There was no like end goal.
There was nothing. It was just,
I think it was just a lot of pent up energy and aggression, and it just it all felt very pointless and stupid at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, the QAnon stuff was all just complete nonsense from the get go.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think, you know, I watched a lot of the January 6th Senate hearings.
Yeah.
And, you know, Trump wanted to actually join them there, and then people around him would not let him. So I think it could have gone differently if they had some, you know, person there who was like their, you know, pretty much their like cult leader actually there. Yeah. Then it might have, something might have happened differently. But it's just, do you ever watch this and think, wow, these people have the same amount of political say as I do?
That's a crazy point, but you're right.
Like they have a vote as well.
Yeah.
Even though their entire perception of the world is so warped and inconsistent with reality.
And that's, I think, what is so interesting about the doc, is that it is trying to understand these people, and honestly does a pretty decent job at understanding these people, better than like a lot of the mainstream media does, you know? And I think that's something that is like no one's ever considered, just because it's like, it is interesting to see how someone could end up in a position like that. And I think especially the Q family thing was like very insightful, and it's just terrible. It was like tragic. And
well, I thought that was the most powerful part of the film. The you know, the juxtapositioning of this one family that's kind of in a poor area, very like 10 minutes from the Q family, where the Q family spends all their time, you know, because they have more financial, you know, security and stuff. They have like a house where they're just spending all their time thinking of this Q stuff, where the other Sam's like not even thinking really about politics. They're just like, hey, I'm just trying to like provide for my family and get by.
Yeah, that was a really like it's been a really obvious point, but like something that the doc really put into words very clearly, that like a lot of these people like can go to these protests and go down these rabbit holes because they can like afford to, you know? And that's just something that I is to take into consideration about the kinds of people showing up to these protests and these riots, basically.
And also just the fundamental lack of even understanding why they themselves are there. It's like they literally do not know what they're actually like asking for.
Right. Yeah.
They just know that they just are following Trump or QAnon.
I think like as a documentary, more in like a technical way, this is just my film approach to this. I came away with like a lot of the same. I have similar like nitpicky complaints that a lot of other people do, in which I feel like I wish he would have kind of gone further with his Channel 5 aesthetic or like done a little bit more than what he did. Because I thought that it just felt very like kind of put together, like kind of spontaneous. I mean, it's a messy subject, so it's going to be a messy documentary, and he's trying to tackle a lot of different things. But I wish it was cut a little bit.
Yeah,
smoother.
I do too. Also, the kind of narrator bit he does where he's sitting in the director's chair on like a sound set. I'm like, that is the most film school ass looking.
It's a very.
Setup. I literally did that in like my second year of film school. I had that exact shot where you give him like a hard edge light and make it look like some kind of actor's like studio crap.
I'm just like, that's not his style. I don't know why they did that. It's sort of just like this is a real. I think they must have ran out of money. Yeah. Yeah.
Must have been like, okay, so we only have like $3,000 for the day where we have to shoot this voiceover.
What's so interesting is that, and I thought this pre-allegations. I'm not trying to like, critique him after the fact, but I think his approach is that he's thrown himself into a lot of these situations headfirst and gotten a point of view that like a lot of, like I said, mainstream media doesn't want to go, like they don't want to go there. And I think he does have insight and observations that I'm like we said, are very like powerful to look at the end of the day. And I just don't think he presented it as clearly or as smoothly as he could have. But I'm still like, I think his journalism is very unique and significant compared to what other outlets are doing.
Well, the thing is there's so much stigma attached to every news outlet now, right? Like depending on what side you're on, you innately would not trust someone from an outlet if you're one of those people. So the only way to really get ingrained in this climate is by being a completely independent person that is not attached to like CNN or something.
Totally. So it's a touchy subject, I would say. I don't want to give him too much credit, as I feel like I saw a really interesting Twitter. Well, never mind. I'm not even going to bring this up. It was saying like anyone can just like throw on a suit and like run into these situations and like document it and call themselves like a innovative, like breathtaking or fresh voice in journalism. But I'm like, to an extent, it's like he did do that and got something that like not a lot of people were getting at the time.
I somewhat agree with that. What he did wasn't so. There's a few different kinds of this, right? Like Jordan Klepper from The Daily Show has a bit where he goes to Trump rallies and like talks to them, right? But he's pretty much doing it to just make them, have like logical fallacies in their own thoughts, and just like point out the stupidity of what's happening. Where Andrew Callahan just like lets them talk, which is easier, but it's also interesting in a different way.
I definitely get something out of his reporting that I don't get anywhere else, and I do. There's some merit to that, but at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, like, what has been gained by listening to Alex Jones talk for like 30 minutes about nonsense, And it's like, I don't know. It's a very kind of complicated territory to navigate, for me personally, because I'm just like, this is insightful and this is, I guess, worth knowing, but at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know how much this adds, But I will say this documentary as a whole, like especially looking back at January 6th and everything leading up to it, and as just because he's been promoting it as a documentary, less about those events and more about the media. I think it succeeds for the most part in capturing all of that. I don't know.
I mean, I agree with that, where it is an interesting, different view. I kind of wish that it felt more pointed rather than just being this general.
Me too. Yeah.
I don't know. It's like more of a general look rather than really making any conclusions about anything. Because the only conclusions he makes are like, oh, the people that can go to these rallies have enough money to do it, and it's like, well, yeah, that's not really the like gotcha.
Right, yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, that's pretty much what I have to say about it. I get it's hard to say if I recommend checking it out. But it's definitely interesting. It's I almost, before I started it, was gonna and this is again pre-alligator. I was gonna recommend it to my parents just because I was curious on what they would think. Did you watch this with your parents? I should ask.
I did, yeah.
You did? Okay. I got like 5 minutes in, and the opening scene of this doc is
doesn't that take place in St. Pete, Florida?
Does it?
I think so, dude. Which is like 10, 15 minutes from me right now. It's like 10 or 15 minutes from me is where those guys live.
Yeah. I was just, after that opening scene, I was like, you know what, I'm going to pretend that I'm not going to tell them anything about this.
That's what right here is like in Florida.
Yeah. So, I guess, it's a tough documentary to talk about. It's worth talking about, though, and I am glad it exists at the end of the day. I'll say it, but yeah. I don't know what else to add. What did you give for a star rating, Jeff? I'm sorry. I was trying to hold in a sneeze that whole time.
I didn't even think about a star rating for this.
It's a weird movie to give a star rating.
Yeah.
You know,
3.5.
3.5. I was at a 4, and I'm kind of more at a 3.5. Because wish it was. I liked what you said. I wish it was a little bit more pointed. Could have been a better documentary, despite its good intentions. I think. I don't know. But that's This Place Rules. It's on HBO Max, and let's get into the Q&A.
Yep. Do I sound good in your AirPods Max?
Yeah, you do. You sound crystal clear. I was like, maybe it's just the AirPods, but I'm like, this is a good episode. We sound great. I think I sound better when I'm nasally too. It's like adds some.
You sound hot,
crisp. Yeah.
You sound very attractive. Like if I was not watching the video, I'd be like, damn, this guy is a 10.
This guy's
And then if I was watching the video, I'd be like, no, he's still a 9.
Yeah. This first one comes from Chips Ahoy 523, and it's a meta one. It's what makes a good Carscast question. That's a good question itself because it makes us think a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate the either or question sometimes because it gives you like a very easy thing to go one or the other and then argue for it.
Yep. Yeah. I
like, is Karsten a 9 or a 10?
That's a good question. Yeah.
I mean, it's one or the other. We all know it.
I honestly like the ones that have nothing to do with movies because it's always just it's not because I don't like talking about movies, but because it's a nice break and like you get answers you don't expect when you ask something not about movies.
That would have been insane if right there you revealed you don't like talking about movies. Because you're like, not that I don't like it, but you were like, I really hate talking about movies.
Yeah, I'm over it. It got old. But no.
Dude, what if you did? Would you ever pivot to something else?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know what it would be though. But I've always had the urge, like, but the thing is, it's like I feel like movies, even before I had a YouTube channel, was something I always got really excited to talk about. Like if I'm in a heated conversation about it with somebody, like I get excited to talk about them, which is not something that happens with anything else. So I'm like, I don't know. I could pivot, but I don't think I would be as good at it if I, and this is just talking. Like I could see myself doing a career in something else, but if I was to make a YouTube channel or a podcast, like it's either movies or shows. I could
see you making good YouTube documentaries about something.
Yes. So I could edit and direct it, but I would want someone else to write it.
No, I think you could write it. I'm talking about, the YouTube documentaries like Summoning Salt, where it's this like, niche topic.
Yeah.
And you make a documentary that no one else would make. Dude, your channel would blow up if you made one about some very specific niche like film or TV thing.
There have been ideas that I've had, but it's always been such a daunting topic. The thing is, I have short videos. Like I don't think I have enough to contribute to make a full doc situation.
Well, if you researched, I bet you would.
If I research, yeah, which I should start doing.
Dude, that would be insane.
I have
a Carson Rehnquist documentary.
I have a really funny video idea that's not a documentary that I want to tell you about off camera.
Okay.
Because I don't want anyone to
I'm ready
steal
afterwards,
it.
yeah. No,
Okay.
of course.
It's
and
a good
I
video.
promise I won't steal it.
I will say my 12 hours in a theater video did pretty well. Like,
yeah?
Honestly,
Well,
pretty
I haven't
successful
seen it yet.
video. I was a little like, that's whatever, but we're almost at 400,000, so I'd consider it a
Nice.
success.
Ooh, how's the Succession podcast?
It's going pretty well.
What's it called again?
It's called Suck Off. But it's going well. It's one of those things where we're hitting a point with it where the episodes are getting a lot denser and it's a lot to keep track of, and I'm trying to keep up because it's a very layered show. But I'm just rewatching the show has been a blast because I love this show so much. Yeah, Suck Off. It's funny because we're already like almost done with season 1, which means we're about a third of the way through the podcast. So it's a very short. It's going to be a very short-lived podcast, but glad I'm doing it.
Yeah, but
glad
like
it's
for
finally
the
happening.
next season, it's gonna probably jump up the charts.
I hope so.
That's
so.
what my brother's Westworld podcast did. It was like the number 3 Westworld podcast or something in the
That's
world.
the thing. Well, that's the thing about TV podcasts is like we're gonna have a great 2 months.
Yeah.
And then-
Now, if you need tips about that, you could ask Jared.
I might hit him up.
about, Yeah, because the thing is, what he was saying to me that's really important is getting them out like early as hell.
we were gonna
Like-
like watch episodes together and then just record
Like
immediately.
record like right after. Yeah, see, that's the move. And then you just got to get them out as fast as possible because a lot of people who watched it the next morning going to work will want a podcast to listen to.
Exactly. No, we got to get on it. And we're trying to, there's not really like a Succession. I think I've told you about this, that like the official Succession podcast from HBO is the only like successful Succession podcast that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to be like the other one. Suck Off. We'll see what happens. Yeah, anyway, that's a question. This next one comes from Roller Skate Butterfly. And this is mostly for Jeff. It is, who is your favorite NHL mascot? Which I suppose I could answer, but I need to look up the NHL mascots.
Now,
I think there's an obvious one.
Gritty is the one that a lot of people like. But here's the thing. I grew up going to NHL games. So I liked the mascot from when I was a young child.
Yeah.
So Thunderbug.
Yeah. Totally. I'm looking at Thunderbug right now, and it's an insane mascot. It's a weird looking mascot.
And the weirdest part is that the Tampa area does not have fireflies. Like we don't have them here.
I'm looking at Minnesota's Nordy for the Wild, and it's
Calgary. Look up Calgary's.
Calgary Flames mascot. Oh my god. He's awesome. Harvey the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
Big ass tongue.
Yeah, the tongue is insane.
That's my favorite.
I think that's probably
Harvey the
objectively
Hound.
the best one.
That's a terrifying mascot. But
Yeah, like why is his tongue like that?
like if I went into the closet in that office and I saw just like Harvey sitting there without anybody in him, it'd be terrifying.
Without anybody in it.
Weird way to put that.
It was.
Yeah, we have one more, and it's kind of a weird. I don't know how to answer this. I need to like look up. It's how many DVD regions have you been to?
That's okay. That's like a. Let me Let me look this up. DVD.
Yeah, the
regions.
DVD region code Wikipedia page has a map.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, I've been to 3, I think.
Okay, let's see.
I've only been to 3. Unless, wait. Oh yeah, that's 3.
Oh, I do also love how French Guiana
Yeah.
is in the European one because it's technically part of France.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get, I don't think you would in GeoGuessr, but if you get French Guiana and you guess, for a country streak, you would need to guess France. But I get you could click there and still be accurate. But
so,
you've been to pretty much. Have you been to China, Jeff?
No.
Okay, that's the one then.
Yeah.
You've been to every snow.
Yeah, I've been to all of them, but China.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. Wait, where in Africa or Asia?
I've been to Morocco.
Morocco. Yep. There we go. Damn. That's fun. Try and complete the DVD regions.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying. That's my travel goal.
I mean, China's all that's left, and I'm probably not going there anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, that's questions for today.
That was a good question, though.
Yeah. We like to finish these off by announcing what we're watching next week, which I'm looking at. There is a really fun one we could do, Jeff.
Honestly, I picked this one, which turned out to be kind of weird. So maybe you should pick.
Well,
as long as it's not body horror.
It's not, but it is horror, but it's a comedy horror.
Oh, is it the Megan?
It's Megan. I think it would be a fun podcast movie.
I think that would be fun. I agree.
It's so stupid. But yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I
think you would like
seen the trailer.
Yeah. So next week we're talking Megan. Let's see. And that's that. Next, we like to read a review because we like to hear what you guys have to say about the podcast. We're charting at number 160, by the way, in South Korea. So thank you, South Korea, for the love.
Can you speak any of the language?
None. Nope. Not any South Korean.
Well, we love Son Heung-min, the soccer player on Tottenham. Yeah. He's South Korean. Excellent player.
I love Bong Joon-ho, Park Chan-wook.
That would have made more sense to say about the directors films, since it's a movie podcast.
South Korea, I made a whole video about how great Korean cinema is. They got a lot of great movies in Korea.
Yeah. Secret Zoo.
Can't forget. Yeah. Isn't Broker technically? Broker, which is out now, which we saw at TIFF.
We did
out. Japanese director, but I think South Korean cast. This next part we like to read a review. This one comes from Lemon Cookie 85. Subject line is great pod, 5 stars, and it reads, "Love the pod, keep doing it." There we go.
There you go.
Right to the point. All you need. Right to the point. Next and lastly, we like to thank the patrons over at patreon.com/carscast, where if you pledge $5 a month or $15 a month, you can get access to bonus episodes, Q&As, shout-outs at the end of every episode.
It sounded like you said 50.
Oh, no, 15, not 50. Definitely not. You could pledge 50, but you're not going to get anything extra. I don't know why you would do that.
And also, it'd be a waste of money.
A big waste of money.
I mean, honestly. It wouldn't because you'd be supporting us, but I would personally not recommend it.
There are better places to put $50 a month, I'll say that.
Like my personal Venmo account. Yes. With Karsten out of it.
That's true. I have to Venmo you the Patreon earnings also.
Yeah.
But yeah, but for $5 a month, what is that? Like a coffee, buy us a coffee, or a few because it adds up. But thank you, Alex Thomas, Anson Contreras, Big Beard Pirate, Boinks, Camilla, Christine Kim, Coop, David Borslow, David Sir, Finn Richardson, Jacob Meyer, Jared Armstrong, Jaden Alexander, John Van Houten, Leonard. Let's change the Google search results for PTA. Levin, Jar Jar is the best Star Wars character. Lukewarm, Maddie Robertson, Martin Def, Marilee Borslow, Monroe Page, Noah Wooten, Queen of Staten Island, Rakakuni, Riley Ost, Ryan M. Sam Farr, Sean Kenny, Stella Perry, Super Califragilisticexpialidocious, Mitty Rubin, Jagerman Jensen, Taylor's version, the Raccoon from Airbud 7th Inning Fetch, Wes Kinley, Wiley Todd, and Zoe Hernandez.
McDonald.
Thank you, everybody. And a few new names there. Welcome. Good to read your name.
Good to read your name. Karsten is a big fan of yours.
Big fan. Let's call it. Thanks for listening. And Jeff?
We will.
Catch you on the flip side.